The arguments I just now proposed for examination as establishing the truth of the resurrection are all of the same kind, since they all start from the same point. For their starting point is the origin of the first men by creation. But while some of them derive their strength from the starting point itself from which they take their rise, others, consequent upon the nature and the life of men, acquire their credibility from the superintendence of God over us. For the cause according to which and on account of which men have come into being closely connected with the nature of men, derives its force from creation. But the argument from rectitude, which represents God as judging men according as they have lived well or ill, derives its force from the end of their existence. They come into being on the former ground, but their state depends more on God's superintendence. And now that the matters which come first have been demonstrated by me to the best of my ability, it will be well to prove our proposition by those also which come after. I mean by the reward or punishment due to each man in accordance with righteous judgment, and by the final cause of human existence. And of these I put foremost that which takes the lead by nature, and inquire first into the argument relating to the judgment, premising only one thing, from concern for the principle which appertains to the matters before us, and for order, namely, that it is incumbent on those who admit God to be the maker of this universe, to ascribe to his wisdom and rectitude the preservation and care of all that has been created, if they wish to keep to their own principles, and with such views to hold that nothing either in earth or in heaven is without guardianship or providence, but that, on the contrary, to everything, invisible and visible alike, small and great, the attention of the Creator reaches. For all created things require the attention of the Creator, and each one in particular, according to its nature and the end for which it was made. Though I think it would be a useless expenditure of trouble to go through the list now, or distinguish between the several cases, or mention in detail what is suitable to each nature. Man, at all events, of whom it is now our business to speak, as being in want, requires food, as being mortal, posterity, as being rational, a process of judgment. But if each of these things belongs to man by nature, and he requires food for his life, and requires posterity for the continuance of the race, and requires a judgment in order that food and posterity may be according to law, it of course follows, since food and posterity refer to both together, that the judgment must be referred to them too. By both together I mean man, consisting of soul and body, and that such man becomes accountable for all his actions, and receives for them either reward or punishment. Now, if the righteous judgment awards to both together its retribution for the deeds wrought, and if it is not proper that either the soul alone should receive the wages of the deeds wrought in union with the body, for this of itself has no inclination to the faults which are committed in connection with the pleasure or food and culture of the body, or that the body alone should, for this of itself is incapable of distinguishing law and justice, but man, composed of these, is subjected to trial for each of the deeds wrought by him. And if reason does not find this happening either in this life, for the award according to merit finds no place in the present existence, since many atheists and persons who practice every iniquity and wickedness live on to the last unvisited by calamity, whilst on the contrary, those who have manifestly lived an exemplary life in respect of every virtue live in pain, in insult, in calumny and outrage, and suffering of all kinds, or after death. For both together no longer exist, the soul being separated from the body, and the body itself being resolved again into the materials out of which it was composed, and no longer retaining anything of its former structure or form, much less the remembrance of its actions. The result of all this is very plain to everyone, namely that, in the language of the apostle, this corruptible and dissoluble must put on incorruption, in order that those who were dead, having been made alive by the resurrection, and the parts that were separated and entirely dissolved, having been again united, each one may, in accordance with justice, receive what he has done by the body, whether it be good or bad.